Hi, my name is David Colopy, and welcome to another edition of SATV Presents. Right now, I'm here with Al Ruscio, famous Hollywood actor, Salem native, and his good buddy, Rolly Pino, and we're going to talk a little bit about Salem and Hollywood and the industry. So Al, why don't we'll start off with you and tell us what was Salem like growing up and when you were in high school?
Oh, it's quite different than it is now. It was a very quiet town. We had some pretty good industry here. Parker Brothers, Sylvania, Pequot Mills. It seemed to me as though it was a very quiet town, and they had a lot of movies. The Rialto, the Paramount, the Essex. It was a very quaint town, and you could walk all over, and Salem Willows was a big spot to go, and it was a very nice town to grow up in. It was quiet and peaceful, and I loved the change of seasons, and I loved the ocean, and we used to go swimming down at the end of Salem Willows, and it was a real warm and quiet and peaceful and loving community.
Right, you'd mentioned all the movie theaters. Going out to the movie theaters, is that how you really started getting interested in film?
Yeah, I used to go to the Rialto Theater, the Comique, we used to call it. You could go to Mohegan's Market right across the street, and for 5 cents you could get a big bag of broken cookies on a Saturday. And I'd go in and usually sit in the front and watch the Cowboys, and Bob Steele was my particular hero. And I would sit and look at these movies. And I think in that time, in the 30s, that was our main entertainment. There was no television. And it was the entertainment and the imaginative kind of stimulation for that time. I think Rolly would probably agree with me about that.
Those were the great days. Every Tuesday night they used to sponsor a family night where you could go down and you'd go in for 15 cents, and you could come out with a cup and saucer this week and a plate the next week. It was really very exciting, and of course they had a cereal going, so you had to go every week.
So the movies cost a dime, didn't they?
Yeah,
10 cents.
Do you know how much they cost now on the average around here?
$6 or $7, something like that.
I think they're about $7.50 now.
Yeah, it's gone up. Well, that's expected, but and we're not wishing for those times. We're not living in the past. I'm just saying that it seemed like for a young boy growing up in this community, you could do it because we had a paper route. You had a few pennies. You could do it.
Great. Now, how did you two meet?
Well, Rolly and I are classmates. We went to school together. We graduated from Salem High School at the same time. It's very fun. I didn't know Rolly very well in school. I didn't know. I don't remember your activity. I know I was just a very quiet kid in high school.
Al was very quiet. He was very much interested in acting and so forth. He was in the drama club. I lived on the other side of the tracks. I lived over in the South Salem area. And in those days, times were tough. And I'd leave school and go down to a local restaurant where I washed dishes, and that kept me busy. Yeah, we all had a little.
Well, I had a job at the Chase House, which used to be in the Salem Willows. It's now down here in Pickering Wharf, but I used to be a busboy at the Chase House. And you got free meals when you worked there. So I had a lot of fried fish and fried clams and French fried potatoes. But we all had jobs. And I think we appreciated that because we learned about money, learned about responsibility, and I think that to a certain degree that's missing today, to some of the young people.
Would you guys like to talk a little bit about the class of 41 and what's going on?
I'm going to leave it to my compatriot to talk about, because he's really the spearhead, the spark behind the reunion committee. He's been responsible for putting all the graduates of that year, 1941, which was an extraordinary year, and Rolly will tell you about that, but he's been the chairman of that committee to get us all together every couple of years, and that's really the reason I'm back, through that connection. So Rolly,
roll away.
Well, the class of 41, we were born and raised in the Depression, and we graduated into the war. and then we came home and contributed to the population explosion,
Right.
and we've been paying for it ever since. But it was a tremendous time. People were very, very close, and there was a few years there was never an organized reunion in the early stages after the war because it was difficult to get people together. And finally, I was approached by the class president and asked if I would be willing to...
Teddy Mroz.
Teddy Mroz, class president. And I was asked if I would head the committee, and I told them that I would, and then I laid out the plans and so forth, and told them that after the reunion I would either be fired or made the permanent chairman, and I've been the permanent chairperson since. So we've been organized now it was for the 20th reunion. In 1961,
Sure.
that we had our first real big reunion. And since then, we've grown, and we've got a committee of over 35 people that meet quarterly at the Dutch Street luncheons. We keep a close contact on all of our people so that we're able to know what's going on, and we keep them informed. And we pride ourselves in knowing that we 378 graduates, we know just about where everyone is except for one of our deceased one of our classmates that we don't know whether he's deceased or not. So it's we've been very, very fortunate in having, and our people look forward to coming and joining the reunion.
From all over the country and beyond to come to the reunions. It's quite an event because there's a kind of a cycle, you see where you came from and where you went and you come back. There's a quote, which I'm probably going to misquote, it said, we'll never cease from an exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive back where we started and know the place for the first time. That all of life is a cycle, that you kind of go around and go back, and you see where you've gone, and the reunions give us a chance to kind of focus on what we've done with our lives and where we've gone to. It's kind of fun. Beyond that, it's great to see your old friends, And
you feel like it's kind of a renewal when you come back to Salem and see it again?
I love Salem. I love Salem. I love it with all its warts and frailties, and I wish we'd get some more industry back in this town beyond tourism and talking about the fact that we were responsible for hanging some people that they called witches many years ago. Wherever I go, Salem, they talk about that, and it bothers me because there are people in this town who are imaginative, inventive, progressive, and I don't think we should be, for the rest of our lives, with that thing around our throat,
After all, it was a horrible tragedy that happened.
It was a tragedy that we should be terribly ashamed of, and we should not make profit out of it, I don't think.
I've noticed a lot of commercialization going on with,
you want to get into that? Sure.
Trial, and I'm just curious, nowadays, especially during Halloween, you look around Salem, there's like 30 different haunted houses going on, and what was it like during Halloween?
No, I'll tell you, we had bonfires up on Gallows Hill. We used to collect barrels over the year, and then we'd have a huge, almost a mountain full of barrels, and we would burn the barrels on 4th of July because the fire meant independence and freedom. And even on Halloween, there was that sense of freedom and liberty. You must remember, I don't want to give you a history lesson, but this town was full of a lot of immigrants who came here. We were talking about that earlier. My father came from Italy in 1907. He was maybe 16 years old. Couldn't speak the language, had no money, was prejudiced against. He was called wops and guineas and all that stuff. Rolly's father and the family came from France, and then we had Polish people. We had all kinds of Greeks. We had everyone that came here, but they all did one thing. They became Americans. They learned English. They integrated into the system. They were proud to be Americans. They learned the language. They learned the culture. And that was the growing up period that we had in that time. It was a sense of being proud. My father, for example, came from Italy, very young man, before World War I, and then he was drafted in the American Army, and he fought in the First World War, and he was wounded in France and spent 30 years in and out of hospitals. These are the kind of people that we had who came to this country and became Americans in every meaning of the word, that was a time of, there's a period in the 16th century that was called Sturm und Drang, which means excess and unrest. People wanted to do, well, that was that feeling of Salem, that we all wanted to learn, go to school, make an education, contribute. There was that wonderful sense at that time, which we enjoyed.
And there was a control also. There was a whistle that blew at 8:45, which meant in 15 minutes we had to be off the street. Now this curfew was there every single night. And then Halloween, of course, it was enforced a little bit.
We used to go to the boys' club and play basketball, but when the whistle blew, you had to go home. And we had a respect for the law, and we had a respect for our teachers and our parents, which served us very well, I think.
I would look at you two and say yes and agree. I can totally understand, where you're coming from as far as immigrants coming from other countries.
Yeah.
My great-grandparents came from Italy, Sicily to be exact, and Lebanon, and over from Scotland, England, into Nova Scotia, and then down into New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and all those values, traditions, and cultures are passed on to me, and it kind of makes up what I am today.
That's why you're a responsible young man. I think about the play Our Town, Thornton Wilder's play, in which one of the characters says, you know how life is, you're 20, 21, you make a couple of decisions, you turn around and suddenly you're 50. I think that's true, that period of time that you're going through now is so crucial. So you're a remarkable young man to be here in charge of this program, and you obviously have good values. And that, if there's anything that we could say, not trying to look down from the mountain or saying we've been there, but values is what it's all about. Parents, church, community. And that's really what Rowley and his reunion committee have kept together, the community, and made us realize how lucky we are. We really are now.
Excellent.
And we do pride ourselves in the fact that we support our school, the school that we love so dearly, with the scholarship funds.
Oh, you should tell about the scholarship program, what you've done. It's remarkable.
Our scholarship program has been fantastic. We do all types of fundraising, anything that can raise some funds.
And they've given books, and they've given VCRs to the library, and they've helped with the lights in Bertram Field, and it's just an incredible thing. This man and his committee and the people have raised some $20,000.
Well, we have a base now of over $20,000.
Incredible.
That they operate from on a yearly basis. They draw the interest, and it gives a scholarship assist. It doesn't pay a full scholarship, but it does help.
Helps them.
You, being a graduate of Salem State, can understand that the books are very important.
Well, education is so expensive now that any help that can be given, and that's why I believe this committee, this reunion committee, has done remarkable, and I support them. I think that they're doing a great thing.
Al's contribution, of course, is this poem book that he called me up and he says, look, I wrote a book, and maybe you might be able to raise some funds, some dollars for the scholarship fund. And I said, well, I'll give it a try. So certainly he did. He came down, he sent me a number of books, asked me what our mailing list was, and we were able to
let me see if I can hold this book up.
Well, I dedicate it to the class of 40. Wow.
Now, the book was dedicated to the class of 41, and it pointed out the fact that his career started here in Salem High School, and that he owed this to one of the teachers who was teaching drama and encouraged him to get involved.
John Tellier.
John Tellier.
That's a long story, but I was a very shy boy, and I think John Tellier, who was the English teacher, encouraged me to get involved in public speaking and in theater. And he said some great things that stay with me to this day. He said, when you get up in front of people, if you don't think about yourself and think about the people you're talking to, then you won't be shy anymore. The message that you're trying to give, all the energy is going from me to you. See, David? I'm not thinking about myself. If I was, I'd be worried, because I'd say, oh, they're looking at me and all that stuff. But the key is to have all the energy focused on what you're doing and who you're doing it to. So all my energy is going to you. And that's what John Tellier taught me when I was 16, 15, 16. And that's a remarkable thing. And so teachers are really the most underrated, underpaid, underacknowledged profession in the world. They develop young minds And we ought to get on our knees and kiss all the teachers because they are the ones that really shape us,
Right.
you know?
Think back on teachers I've had throughout high school and college, even going all the way back to grammar school, and it was just an incredible experience and things I've learned. Some things just stay with me to this day, like Mr. Hayes at Central Catholic High School. Aim as out was verb and be, feel, look, appear, become, and seem, the verbs of being. He drilled that into my head over and over again.
Yeah.
I still remember.
Well, schools are really the place where you learn about yourself. You find out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And today you almost have to go to college to get in any kind of profession, so you have to get past high school. But high school is the jumping off place because you're 14, 15, 16 learning about your life, your desires, your strengths. And so the high school is really the jumping off place to go to college. And from college you should find out what your talents are, and you should then find out. There's a whole thing about that. The problem with life, this is Kurt Vonnegut, is that it must be lived forwards, but it can only be analyzed backwards. In other words, life goes on, and you have little time to stop and say, wait a minute, I don't want to go that way. So you almost have to have a place where you can fail so you can find out what your strengths are, and that's college and high school.
Right.
All that makes sense?
We know to the past. Take a look and
Yeah.
see where you went wrong and continue on.
Well, I understand you're in the show business yourself now.
Well, I'm trying to break into it.
Yeah.
Actually,
Break into it's a good word. Break down some doors.
Yeah, filmmaking is where it's at for me. It's what I want to get into, directing, producing, writing, also a little bit of acting from time to
That's
time.
wonderful.
It's always great.
And there's no reason why you can't do that.
Right.
They do films around here. Isn't there film shooting here now?
Yeah, there's one in Boston, right?
Yeah, I'm in it.
You're
Yeah,
in
John Travolta.
Well, which
The
movie is
Civil
that?
It's called The Civil Action. I'm going to be
Civil Action.
probably just extraing in it.
They're doing it now?
Soon, very soon. This month. They're going to be...
Well, I know about the movie. I've got the script, actually.
Oh, really?
I was up for one of the roles in that.
Oh, wow.
And we came very close to getting it, but they went a different direction. It's a very funny thing about films, Boston. My first film was a film called 13 Rue Madeleine. That was, James Cagney was the star. And I was going to college at the time in Brookline, Massachusetts. And, well, it's a long story, but I went to the audition at the Copley Plaza Hotel. There must have been 500 guys there. They were going to cast 7 guys to be OSS students. It was going to be 7 weeks' work. I won't tell you how long ago it was, but I was in school at the time. And I remember I overslept because I was working in a restaurant at night, and I overslept, and I got down there on the subway late. And when I got into this huge grand ballroom at the Copley Plaza, they pushed me way in the back because all these fellas were there in the front. And I remember I didn't shave. I didn't have time to shave, and I had on an old blue suit. And Henry Hathaway, the director, came into the room, and he was smoking a cigar. I'll never forget that. And he said, all right, we're going to pick out 7 young guys to play Frenchmen. You got to speak a little French, and I'll look around the room, and I'll point to you, and you can... Okay. So he walked around the room, long room, and he came in my general area, and he pointed in my general direction. I looked around. He said, you're the guy that needs to shave. So I walked out in this huge ballroom. He said, you speak French? I said, oui. He said, that's good enough. So they hired me for 7 weeks. In the summer of, I think it was 1947, which means it was about 50 years ago. And I played a glorified extra in this movie. I have a copy of that film, by the way. You know, you can see me here, there.
I'm going to have to see it.
No. I was very, very thin, and I met Richard Conte, who was one of the stars in the movie, and it was really the shooting off place because he recommended I go to New York, and he wrote a letter of recommendation to the neighborhood Playhouse School for the Theater, which at that time was the best school in the country for acting because you had 8 hours a day of speech, movement, dance, acting, improvisation, everything. And that was funny how things do lead. One thing leads to the other, and it was out of that school that I began my career.
That's so funny because what you just told me almost parallels what happened to me the first time. I'd like to share a little quick story about what happened. There was a movie filming in Boston called Good Will Hunting with Robin Williams,
Okay.
Matt Damon.
Right.
And my friend said, you want to go to an extra casting call? I said, sure. We went there, and there must have been about 500 people. First assistant director came along, and he said, all right, I want you, and you come with me. And, you know, I ended up becoming like a featured extra in a pretty decent, crucial scene. And, you know, it was the first time I ever went out for anything like that. This was back
isn't
in
Isn't it
May.
amazing how things... So you... And how old were you at the time?
22.
Well, I think I was a little younger than that, but around the same age. It is incredible because these things are almost fate. You know, they see your face, they like it, you look interesting, it's dramatic, and I was paid $75 a week from 20th Century Fox, which 50 years ago was a pretty good deal. I also got free meals, and then they gave me a card, I'll never forget it, 20th Century Fox. And that card I could take, and I could take it into a laundry, and they do my laundry free. And I could also get into a taxi cab, and they would take this card. So it had a lot of perk benefits out of it, you know. 13 Remedeling, yeah, so it's funny, it happened to you, see?
Right.
So you see, you're at that point where I was then, and maybe we're destined to meet somewhere else in a movie, right?
Who knows? That'd be really neat.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
So after that movie, what other roles did you play? And
well, I did a lot of
did you
live
do?
television around New York in the early 50s. I was involved in the Lux Video, Philco Playhouse, Robert Montgomery Presents. I did a lot of stuff around New York, a lot of summer theater. I did summer theater in Maine and Pennsylvania and New Hampshire. And I toured in a bunch of plays. And then the big play I toured in was Steve McQueen, Hatful of Rain, in that play. And then I toured with Kim Stanley in Country Girl. I did a lot of plays. And then in '58 we went to California. I did a play in California called A View from the Bridge by Arthur Miller. I played Eddie Carbone.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I played the longshoreman, and it was a fortuitous time because people from MGM saw it, casting people. And out of that play I was they put me in Bonanza. I was in Bonanza, and I was in Mr. Lucky, and literally it got me into movies. I did Al Capone with Rod Steiger out of that, and one thing led to another, and slowly I began doing movies and television. I had a series called Shannon, in which I played Kevin Dobson's father-in-law, a fisherman. We shot it in San Francisco. I did a series called Steam Bath, where I played Da Vinci, who, you know, Steam Bath story about all these people who die and they come to this place and they have to go through this whole, like, purgatory setting.
Right.
The big thing I did was I played the grandfather on a show called Life Goes On, ABC. I don't know whether you ever saw that.
I remember that.
Yeah, I played the grandfather of the boy, Chris Burke, who had Down syndrome.
Corky, right?
Corky, yes,
Okay,
my
yeah.
grandson. And I did that, and so I've done most all the shows. Now I'm pretty well established. I've done Seinfeld, and I've done Mad About You, and just finished a movie of the week up in Toronto. Played Tony Danza's father. That'll be on Sunday. That Disney Wonderful World of Color, 7 to 9 p.m. It'll be on sometime around Christmas.
I'll be looking for it.
I just recently finished a pilot for HBO called Love and Madness, which is a comedy starring Joanna Kearns, who was the star of Growing Pains,
Yep.
and Gregory Harrison. I play his dad, and I do a lot of dads and grandfathers. And then I did, Tippi Hedren is also in it. And so you work as an actor, you work, and I've never become a, quote, star, but I am a working actor, and that's really what I wanted to be. It's better.
Ray, if you're happy and
I'm very content. I'm at a point in my life where I'm enjoying the fact that we get recognized. Rolly and I go into a restaurant, we get recognized. And coming back to Salem, for me, is always a special treat, and it's great to be with Rolly because he's an actor too, you know, this guy.
In my own right.
But you should ask questions. I could go on for 20 minutes. There's a joke about
I'm just
that.
fascinated.
No, there's a
listening
joke
to
about
this.
that. If you want me, if I have, if it's going to be improvisation, I can talk for an hour. But if it's going to be something for 5 minutes, I'll need 2 weeks to prepare it. You know, you got to. But if you go on and on, but yeah, it's a fascinating life. I also was. I had a period in there where I taught. I still do. I went to Iowa, and I was the head of the theater department and fine arts division of a new school called Midwestern College. It was a kick because my wife and I have 4 children, and we decided we didn't want them to grow up in Hollywood, so we went to Iowa, and we loved it there. And the school unfortunately closed, and then I moved up to Canada for about a year. I was at the University of Windsor, and then over to Oakland University in Michigan, where I was the artistic director for the theater program. And then I went back to Hollywood in '77. So 20 years now we're back in California. So I've kind of done the whole circuitous route. I've been in academia. It has its joys and pitfalls. Faculty meetings can be very boring and difficult sometimes. My wife and I have been teaching at Disney Studios in the last couple of years, the animation department. One of my students was the man who created the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. His name is Glenn Keane. And he said to me, what I learned in the acting class was that you had to get underneath the skin of the character before you can fully appreciate him or draw him or act him. So the animators now do all these acting exercises in subtext and inner monologue and imagination. We do scene work, we do character work, and then they have to act it out, and then they have to draw it. And then they see, and then we film it, and they see the character moves wrong. The character, we do a lot of animal work, and you have to become a bear or a hyena or a cockatoo and a panther. How does a panther move? And all that stuff is useful for the animators. We did some work for Disney when they were putting together a movie called Mighty Joe Young, you know, about this huge gorilla. So
Right.
we had to study gorillas and how they move and their movement and how they eat and how they walk. And they have huge weight, they have a huge stomach, and they kind of walk with their stomach. So we study animals, and it's really kind of exciting. Keeps me young.
That's neat.
Yeah.
The animals are very important.
I talk too much. Well, you talk, please.
In my voice and movement class, we learned a lot of how to move like an animal, how to, find that inner voice and bring it out. And
every animal moves differently, has a different center, and eats differently. The sense of smell is very crucial. And if you work with animators, especially who do a lot with animals, you can appreciate their life history. So that's been a kind of fun thing for us. We fell into it, quite honestly. It's kept us going.
It's amazing how things fall into place for you as you go along in life. And Al's career has been great. We've been watching him, and the phone rings and somebody sees him on TV. One of the most recent ones was ER, when he played the father in ER, his sister.
Right.
Yeah, I played a character that was very amusing who couldn't read. He was an immigrant. Couldn't read, but he wanted to send his children through school, and he was proud of that, but he couldn't read. And his wife would read everything for him, but his wife had recently died, and now he had a small heart condition, and he couldn't read the prescription on the pills, so he took an overdose, and he was in the hospital, and the woman kept saying to him, did you know this? And he said, yes. And he was trying to cover up the fact that he couldn't read, and then finally she said, she gets the idea, she said, you can't read, can you? And he breaks down. He starts to cry because he's ashamed of it. And he said, I never wanted my children, it's coming back now, I'm going to cry. It's funny how these things. And he says, I never wanted my children to be ashamed of me. I never wanted them to know I couldn't read. So
wow.
It was a very touching scene, and
very proud.
It was a very moving episode. I can guarantee you that. We all watched him.
Was it this past season that?
Last season. This season I've done other show. I did the Tracy Ullman show, Tracy Takes On. It's a very funny episode. I don't want
She's
to spoil it for you, but it's called Tracy Takes On. She takes on different things, like she took on drinking, smoking, and this is called Tracy Takes On Aging. And she plays a wonderful character called Fern Rosenthal with red hair and lots of jewelry, and she's living in Miami Beach in a condo, and all the men are after her, and I play a guy named, I forget my name, but I'm hot for her, you know, so I have a walker. I play a guy who's old, really old, and I have to come and sit down with her. And the essence of it is that I try to get her to marry me, and she laughs. I said, no, no. She says, I know about you men. You want to marry me for my money. I said, no, I don't need your money. I'm rich. She said, oh, you want a nurse? I said, I need a nurse. We go on and on. The scene goes on. Then finally I say, look, I'm very strong. I've got a good heart. It's only 2 years old, and I laugh about that. And then I say, I'll show it to you. I'll prove it to you. And you want to see my push-ups? She says, no, no. I said, no, I can do push-ups. I start to do push-ups. 1, 2, and I have a heart attack and I die. She says, that's the third man that's died on me this week. All these old men. It's a comedy, of course, but
Right.
it's a very funny, satirical approach to aging.
That's amazing how many times he has died on TV in high school.
Oh, right.
In high school he died.
Well, this is the play. It was called A Bracelet of Doom. Never
Yeah.
forget the name. And it was a play that John Tellier got me into, by the way, because I was terrified of people. I could never get up. But he got me in the speech class, and then he said, oh, there's a part for you in this play, which starred Russell Stevens, Norma Carter, help me with this now, some of the people from the acting class.
Yeah. I don't remember all.
And they were the stars anyway, and I had a small part. I came in near the end, and I was a villain. I had to come in and say, okay, you got whatever the lines were. I've been doing that for 50 years. And then I get shot and I die, and near the end of the play, I'm on the ground and I'm dead. And the curtain was supposed to come down, and then we had rehearsed the curtain call, and we stood up, and I got in a certain place and took a bow. But what happened was the curtain was one of these old curtains that came down. Instead of coming in this way, it came down this way, and it rolled, and you could tell it was down all the way when it stopped. So I'm dead on the floor, right, trying to hold my breath, which I've done many times since. But the curtain comes down, and I hear it stop. I figure it's down. So I start to get up, but it's not down. It got stuck halfway down. And I get up, and the audience sees me getting up, and they laugh, and they roar, and I don't know what to do, so I go back and pretend I'm dead again. So that makes it even worse, because they applaud again, and finally the curtain came down. When it came, never heard the end of that one. But that was my career in Salem High School, in the play that was done in 1941, and that was the beginning of my career. It's just an amazing thing how, and I you know, Laurence Olivier said you need 3 things to be successful as an actor. You need talent, which is an innate ability to identify with a character so that you can become involved in this make-believe world. If you're playing a guy that's dying, you got to believe you're dying. That's what it is. Talent. Perseverance, which means you never give up. And luck. And he said you need all 3 in equal proportions. You know, people who are talented but no luck. You know, people who have perseverance but no talent. He said you need all 3. You need to drive and be driven, never give up. You need to study to improve your talent, but you need luck. And I sometimes think that luck is the most important thing, because how I got in 13 with Madeline was luck. And I'll give you another story. We all right with time? I'll give you another story about
sure,
luck.
Absolutely. We'll go.
This is a story about luck. I'm in California, and we're literally broke. And I don't have an agent. That's something else we haven't talked about. In California, you have to have an agent or a manager, otherwise you never get submitted for a role. And I had heard about one agent named Bill Barnes, and I went to see him when I came from New York to California. He said, I can't take you, I don't know your work, Al, I can't hire you. So he happened to have a Hollywood reporter in his office. And I looked at it, and I saw they were doing Al Capone with Rod Steiger. And I said, what about this movie? He said, oh, that's all cast. Rod Steiger uses all his friends. I said, what are they doing? He said, Allied Artists way down the end of Sunset Boulevard. No point. So I said, well, I think I'll take a drive down there, just for the heck of it. I went down there, parked my car, had an old Cadillac that was like 20 years old. It was a convertible that I bought for $300 when I went to California. And I parked the car in front of Allied Artists, and I went in. And there's a secretary. I said, do you have an appointment? I said, yes. They always say yes. They said, okay, this way. They put me in a room like this with a couple of chairs. And I sat there. And do you ever sit down in a room when you did something wrong and your life suddenly goes by and they're going to arrest me? And I was so desperate, I figured, what can they do, kill me? Anyway, out came this guy. He said, are you the guy for the part? I said, yeah. He said, stand up, turn around, can you start tomorrow morning? I said, sure. He said, okay. He went out. Now I'm thinking, what have I done? Another guy come out. Are you the same thing? Are you the guy for the part? Can you start tomorrow? Third guy. Well, I discovered later that the first guy was the director and the other two guys were the producers of this film. Then they all three came out and said, okay, here's the script. Who's your agent? And I said, without missing, I said, Bill Barnes. He wasn't, you know. They said, okay, report tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock here at Adult Artists, and you start working. You're playing a character named Tony Gennaro, Al Capone's bodyguard. We'll call your agent and make the deal. Now I'm broke. So I go out. I think I had 20 cents in my pocket. At that time, phone calls were a dime.
10 cents.
And I called Bill Barnes. And like a bad movie, of course, the phone was busy, right? I finally got through. I said, Bill, I got a script. I'm going to start tomorrow morning. I told him, you're my agent. He said, well, if you got a part, I'll be your agent. So he said, call me back in about half an hour. Hang up. I'm sitting in this restaurant on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And people are looking at me because I got no money to buy food. I got just one dime left. It was really, you know, like, what have I done? And I got the script. And I called back. I get through. Bill? Al, yeah. What? Well, he said, I don't know what to say, Al. I said, what? He said, yeah, they want you for the part. It's 3 weeks guarantee, but the money is terrible. I think we should turn it down. I said, well, what do you mean the money's terrible? They said, I'm embarrassed to tell you what it is. I said, well, how much is it? He said, well, you know, I finally said, okay. Now, you have to understand, this is many years ago. I'm broke, literally broke. I think I pawned my watch the night before, true, to get groceries. He said, they want to give you $500 a week for 3 weeks guaranteed, featured billing, and you be Al Capone's bodyguard, and you start tomorrow morning. And there was a long pause. And I said, well, I really said, the money's not important. Be good to have the experience. And he said, okay, if that's what you want to do, come on in and sign contracts. I did. Then I went into work the next morning. And luckily, that first day, I worked a lot, did a lot of stuff. I mean, in the picture, I got maybe 3 lines. Right, here, okay, boss, whatever. We ad-libbed. At 1 o'clock, we're at lunch at the Allied Artists cafeteria, and I'm sitting there, and this guy that I know, who since has died, his name was Carl Lucas, good friend of mine, came in to the restaurant. He said, Al, how did you get this part? And I said, well, my agent, Bill Barnes, got it for me. Why? He said, because I had an appointment yesterday, and I was a half an hour late, and when I got there, the door was closed. I said, I don't know a thing about it. That is peculiar. Luck, call it whatever you want. Out of the blue, desperate, I did something. I was lucky. There's an example of luck, see. So sometimes I always felt bad about Carl, but I thought, well, God was good. I thought it was my time, and I did it.
It was fate.
And I made enough money on that film with a lot of overtime. I was, you know, and that was the picture that got me started in Hollywood. Now, I'm talking now 1959, somewhere in there. Because when the film, it was made in September of 50, when it was released, several months later, I was now doing good stuff, and my agent would say, well, he had a much bigger part, they cut him out. We always do that in California, see. So luck is very important. Luck means being in the right place at the right time, and I've been very lucky.
That's good. I've been finding that out myself a little bit, as I was telling
you.
you.
Well, luck is very important. Luck and talent and determination, those 3 things, David, don't ever lose that, see. I sound like a teacher now, right?
But one other thing I want to ask you about is The Godfather.
Yeah, Godfather 3.
Godfather 3. What was that like for you?
It was a great experience. It's one that I wish every actor could work with. Francis Ford Coppola.
He's phenomenal.
He's a great guy. I guess the term genius is not good because I think he's slightly mad too. You know, he's a crazy guy. He would come on the set once in a while and be like Uncle, you know, wonderful guy. And other times he'd come on and scream at everybody. You never knew what kind of it. But there was a book about his life called On the Edge. He likes to live on the edge. And when things are desperate, he seems to do his best work. So it was a joy. But in my case, there's another story. Talk about luck. I had an appointment to see Francis Ford Coppola for a part in Godfather 3. I was doing a play in Hollywood at the time, so I had to be at the theater at 7 o'clock. So I had an appointment to see him at 6 o'clock. And I stayed from 6 to 7. He never showed up. So I went away. Then they called and said, Mr. Coppola, we'll see you tomorrow at 6. It was 3 times it happened. Every time he never showed up, and I was really getting mad now, right? So his producer, Fred Roos, was there, and he said, well, I got a camera here. Why don't you just talk to the camera as if you're talking to Mr. Coppola? And I'll see he gets the film. At that point, I figured, I'm never going to meet the man, and why should I care? So I said, okay, and this is the God's truth. I said, Mr. Coppola, I've been here 3 times, and I want to tell you, I don't know who the hell you think you are. I sweared at him in Italian. And I said, you insult me, you insult, and I found out which means go to. I let it all out. I said, that's it, goodbye. And I walked away. Figured, at least I got the satisfaction of telling this guy off. 2 days later, I got a call, Mr. Coppola wants you in the movie. And that's a true story.
That's wild.
Full of stories, right? So they said, when we finally said, okay, you're going to go to Rome. And only 2 of us were hired from California, Carmine Caridi and me. We were flown first class to Rome. We got to Rome and didn't know what part we were going to be on. Yes, Dave, what?
45 minutes into the show.
Okay. Okay, well, we're wrapping it up. Got there, didn't know. He said, okay, we're not going to use you fellas for a while, so go and enjoy it. They gave us per diem. And in Italy, you get lira. You know, it's like 1,000 lira for a cup of coffee. So they gave us like 1,000,000 lira. We were told to go around. I went to Anzio, I went to Perugia, went all over Rome and all that. Finally, we got back, and then we shot the interior scenes, the dialogue. And then they said, go away, we're going to fix this set. They wanted a set that could rock because of all the killing. You know, if you saw the movie, we get killed from the helicopter up. It was a very complicated shot, and they had Lucas in to help. And so we went away for another week, came back, and then they shot, and then we were all killed that day. So it was kind of a joy, being killed again. But working with Coppola at Cinecittà, where all those wonderful Italian movies were made, was a fantastic experience. I really feel very fortunate to have been in it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to start wrapping things up a little bit.
Okay.
But, you know, I'd just like to know if you can just give me and other people watching an idea of, or some kind of direction as if you want to be in filmmaking, you know, no matter what aspect, whether it's behind the camera, in front of the camera, what would you say is the first step?
First step.
What do you do?
First step is get as much education as you can, because today you can't succeed unless you have a good education, a broad education. You must know more than just film. You must know sociology and psychology, and you must know architecture, and you must know the history of music and dance. So get an education, number one. Number two, get all the training you can in your hometown. Wherever you have a camera or a play, go to it and offer your services. You learn. The only way to learn is right after, now I'm going to digress, right after World War II, they were asking people to come to the Marblehead North Shore Players Theater, 1946, to paint scenery and play bit parts. Estelle Parsons, Jack Lemmon, and I were the apprentices. We painted sets, and we played bit parts. So go in your local community and be in plays and offer your services and try anything. If you got a camera, go out with a camera and film scenes and write dialogue and film it and edit it, and wherever you happen to be, don't run to New York or run to California, because too many people are there who know what's going on. Get all the training you can in your home community. Learn in high school, learn in college. Try everything. If you want to direct, and ask the teacher if you can direct a scene. It's all there. Now they have telecommunications departments. The opportunities now are varied, you know that. So, like you're doing, get involved in cameras, know about lenses, see movies, get on a movie set, get behind the camera, bug the director. You have to be aggressive. And just don't leave your hometown, because that's the mistake a lot of people, when they come to New York and they starve and they don't know what they're doing. They get lost in that crazy vortex of confusion and ambition. In your hometown, get the education, get all the training you can, like you're doing. So you're a marvelous example, David, and you're going to do fine.
I appreciate the encouragement and the words of wisdom and the support.
Well, I mean it, because I see brightness in you, you know.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure Rolly will agree with me that you're the kind of young man that makes the community tick.
Well, he picked right up on it and said, hey, I'd love to do this, and if it can be arranged, I'd greatly appreciate it, and here we are sitting.
Yeah.
And you didn't know I would talk so long. I'm sorry about that.
Well, I knew.
I was hoping we'd have enough to talk about, you know. I was worried, like, I don't want to cut it too short.
Oh, well.
This has been great. You know, it was just a chance phone call when you called me up to see if I can make a dub of one of a little segment you were in, a little local piece.
A promotion of the poem book,
right,
which was one of the biggest fundraisers. It brought in over $2,500 in donations. See, we don't sell the book; we accept donations for the book.
Just like we accept donations for copies of our tapes.
That's right.
That's right.
Like one fellow said, Steve said, I bought your book. No, you didn't buy my book. You made a contribution to the scholarship program. You got a book free. But this man should really be the mayor of Salem.
No.
This man is a moving force in this community.
Hey, I'll vote for you.
Yeah, I would too. Now, listen. See, being French wouldn't hurt you at all.
That doesn't hurt at all. I never thought it did.
You know, we were funny about the town. We had Salvo and Harrington and
Levesque.
It's kind of nice to go through the whole. There's no racial problem in this town. It's nice.
That's right.
Well, thank you for all this fun.
Al, thank you very much.
It's really been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
David,
wish you good luck.
thanks for having
Rolly,
the support.
thank you so much.
Thank you for all your support.
That about wraps it up this time. Thanks for joining us.